What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 40 of HiBruiNation. Welcome to the Black and Gold. I'm Goosey, joined with me tonight by one of my other new co-hosts in Steve Chobbs, aka the Chavo, and you know him, you love him from Have Normals, from the Fucking Around podcast. Rick Seligman, aka Slags.
It's a Bruins podcast. It's a Bruins podcast. They might not love me.
Can you clearly tell I'm out of rehearsal here, fellas? We haven't had an episode. Like the last one we did was the interview with David Backes, and I'm kind of all out of it. Anyway, this is the unofficial of Boston Bruins.
It was a great episode, that one, by the way. If you haven't seen it yet, check out the David Backes interview. It was a great interview, I thought. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. It was an experience learning from him, just like what it meant from the player's perspective. Just like, being in a Stanley Cup final, leading up to draft, what it was like being in free agency, going through all those motions, and especially like his concussion injury too. Like it was just like a spectacular moment to understand from a player's perspective what really goes into everything in the NHL. Tonight we are going to go over the 2025 NHL entry draft and the 2025 NHL free agency for the Boston Bruins. One of those two was very exciting. But before we get started, I want everyone to welcome in Steve. Steve, I'm happy that you are joining HiBruiNation. Steve is a long-running fraternity brother of mine from back when we went to Salem State. So I'm more than happy and elated that you have decided to come on the show and enjoy this with me. So welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. I mean, nothing like talking Bruins off season after witnessing what Don Sweeney has just done. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Can't wait to get into it.
Yeah. Look. Let's set the table, right? Historically speaking, and everyone loves to call back to the 2015, his first year as a GM, how horrible of a draft year that was. But then you fast forward a bit. He had a few good or decent draft years in between now and then I think he had a solid one this year. So I'm going to throw this graphic up, and it basically is going to describe what happened during the draft and what happened in free agency. And so starting with the draft, I mean, he started with James Higgins. That was a layup for him, right?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
if you didn't take him at that point, I mean, there'd be probably some serious issues.
Mm-hmm. If you're a Bruins fan, you got to be excited at least. I mean, you can't be excited towards next season. We'll get into that, but like covering the draft, I'm sure the draft happened a couple weeks ago. So I mean, this is stuff that everyone already knows about these players. But a lot of Bruins fans, right, were really, really hoping that James Higgins was going to fall to him. He's been comped to Nick Suzuki, Braden Point, and I believe Jack Hughes. Those are three big players. And so every hater is wondering why he fell so far, especially because last year he was being touted as the number one pick until other individuals, arose. I'm hyped up about this kid. I don't know, dude. 7th overall. Happy Gilmore announced him. I don't know how more excited can you be as a Boston Bruins fan for this guy to make his debut? It won't be this year. He's committed to BC, but the earliest he could probably play would be 2026, 2027.
Well, no, you might get him for a couple of games. Like if he leaves at the end of when college hockey's done for him, you might get him for a few games at the end of the season. And he's the type of player that I think if he makes the jump then that they'll burn the first year of the ELC and get him into the lineup, I think.
True, they could. But I think Sweeney, with what they've done with Letrino, has mentioned that they do not want to rush this guy.
Yeah, you can't rush this guy. From everything that I read, this kid is a generational talent. And could be potentially a franchise player for the Boston Bruins going into the future. You don't want to rush him. You want him to develop. I mean, I don't want to compare him to Connor Bedard, but you see what happens when you rush a player into the NHL, who's, you know, it's one of those things where you want this guy to develop, especially where your team is right now. I mean, overall, I don't see this team making the playoffs next year. And I would rather have this kid develop into a talent that is going to be worth keeping for a long time. And you're not going to have that in one season. So let him stay at BC, give him a year in Providence, and who knows what the ceiling will be for this kid. I mean, he has the potential.
Can I say something on that?
Right.
Am I right that he's a North American first-round pick? Unless he's 20, he can't play at Providence. Am I right? He can't play,
I'm not
in the AHL till he's 20.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm not positive on that rule.
So all I'm saying
know.
is, if he decides to jump after this coming season, the only place he can play is either to go back to college, go to junior, or the NHL. I don't think he can play in the AHL.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if he was a European player, or then that would be different. But I think for North American kids, they got to be 20 to play in the AHL.
And that's fair. I mean, but at the end of the next season at BC, who knows if he's even going to get called up or whatnot?
Can we take this down.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, yeah, Rick was distracted.
It's one of those things where, depending on the timeline that he's on, I think it's very potential that he could do a season in the AHL just to bring him up to speed. And I mean, quite frankly, with the lineup for the next 2 years that I'm seeing, there's no rush on this kid. Let him develop. There's no moves to be made except for what's been going on. So we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see.
He was a point-a-game player last season in college.
Yes,
if he has a better season, then what's left for him though in college to do?
Yeah, but you want to know what? I got to say something about that. Like, the BC Eagle, they weren't the greatest team last year, and so I mean, they're BC. It's Hockey East. It's extremely competitive, but a point per game player when you're 18 years old, being thrown into that, it's still impressive. I mean, Jack Eichel was almost 2 points per game when he was 19. So I'm curious to see if Higgins can step it up. He went to development camp. He learned a few things. So I think what happens with Higgins, it is contingent upon this year in BC, whether or not the Bruins feel like he can make that leap into the NHL, a development camp again next year, and then they make that decision together going into the 2026-2027 season. I don't think this is the type of player that you will see spend much time, if any, down in Providence. I think not him. If they give him a good 9-game try and just say, we want you to just spend some time down in Providence, like a couple games, that's where I would see it. But I don't see him starting in Providence. I just don't see it that way. But who knows? It's the Bruins. I mean, look at what they did in free agency. I mean, you never know. But there were so many haters with James Higgins. People were wondering why this guy fell down to it. And Felger and Maz, the best and the brightest that Boston could ever fucking possibly offer, just more or less ragged on this kid. And I didn't understand why.
5'11", I think it's the only reason.
Yeah, he's 5'11". I believe that weight is inaccurate. They have him weighing at 177, but I believe his weight going into dev camp was 185. Something about that nature. So he was definitely heavier. And he comes in heavier than what Jack Hughes was at the same height. So I don't really understand it. The skill set's clearly there. I think there was other concerns, but I don't know. Maybe teams want – it seemed like almost every team this year, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, they were focusing on getting bigger and heavier players. Like, look where Brady Martin fell. It didn't make any sense to me.
But that's what I'm saying, right? So he's 5'11", and it was clear in the draft that size was maybe even a little bit more valued over talent. Like, I when you mentioned Brady Martin, so I think that's why he fell to you guys. And listen, that's good for you guys that happened. I think.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I'll take that every day of the week. I mean, I think this kid was over-scouted, and I think him choosing to go to Boston College really did hurt his draft rankings. From what I read, it was, if he chose to go the junior route, you might be looking at a 100-point season for this kid. That's pretty much the consensus on what I've read on from all these scouting reports from different teams and all these different things. I think going to BC really hurt him, but even then, he's a point per player at 18 years old
against men
in Hockey East.
Yeah, I think that did him better to do that.
Yeah, I do too. And who knows? They had a development camp for him, right? He's in the development camp. Who knows what this next season at BC is going to look like for him? Hey, do we have to add more muscle to this kid? Hey, what are some particular things that we need to work on this kid with so he can go and take a whole season at Boston College and go and develop himself to be a point per game player in the NHL, right? The sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah.
You don't know what those conversations behind closed doors are happening. They're probably saying, hey, we want you to work on X, Y, and Z, and he's going to use the whole season to do that and come out of this even better. I'm really excited to watch next season for him.
Did either of you guys see or hear any of his comments after he was drafted? Because it seemed like it was a chip on his shoulder, right? Like where he was, he thought he was going to go higher. A lot of people had him between like 4 and 7. I had him at 5 because I thought no way Nashville was gonna fumble that and pick Brady Martin with what Nashville needs. I can't believe they did that, and with what Philadelphia did acquiring Trevor Zegras, I thought that I don't think they're going to go James Higgins because then they're going to need to wait another year because he's already committed to BC. So I'm like, so if Nashville doesn't pick him, I'm like, he's gonna fall to Boston. And so I was just so shocked. And with what he said too is that and it kind of brings me back to what David Backes said here, where he's just like, I just want to be better than the next guy above me. And he wants to prove a lot of people wrong. And I'm like, now that is the Bruin mentality that's been missing, the next man up. And that gets me even more excited. So I'm going to be tuning into almost every BC game this year. That's what I want. And Rick, you're not familiar with these two radio hosts from Boston, but Steve very much is very well acquainted. But Felger and Maz, they're on 98.5 FM. We call it the Sports Hub here in Boston, and they were kind of really 16-minute segment. And they were ripping into this kid mainly because they were sick and tired of the Bruins going from the local guy because it was another BC student. We're gonna have 6 players going to BC this next season, but
is that a bad thing?
I don't know.
I
don't think so.
Can I lay this out there?
Yeah.
First of all, Felger and Maz, I do love their show, right? But Felger is the contrarian of that. He has to argue every single point, whether it be valid or not. And I love it when it blows up in his face. I hope this kid leads us to another Stanley Cup. I mean, really, I want them to swallow all their words because, one, he's a local kid. Yes, he's from New York, but he's going to Boston College. When you are an American, but when you're an American-born player, where do you go for top-level hockey? You go to the Hockey East. You want somebody that goes to the Hockey East. It's the SEC of hockey, right? Like, that's where all the best players go. That's where everybody goes to get developed because you're playing against men, not boys, and you're trying to get to the pros. That's where you want to be. I don't care if it's BC, BU, Harvard, Northeastern. I mean, really, I don't care as long as this guy's good and he's going to make our team good. I'll ask any single Bruins fan out there. I'll ask any NHL fan out there if you would like to have Jack Hughes on your team. Answer will be yes. If he has the potential to be like Jack Hughes, how do you not want him on your team?
Yeah.
Again, it's just one of those things where they're talking to fill up airspace, and I hope they eat their words at the end of the day because, again, Hockey East is the SEC of hockey, of college hockey. So
now
it is what it is. They can say what they want.
No, Steve, they do try to save face quite a lot. They'll just say, like, I hope he works out. I hope he works out. But this is after they'll say, like, he looks like a tweener. Like, he's going to be in between. Like, that's Maz quoted that. He just goes, he looks like a tweener.
Mm-hmm.
And then Felger goes and says, I hate the pick. Hate it, hate it, hate it. Direct quote. And then he says, but I hope it works out. it's just so that if you ever were to call them out, it's like, I know when radio hosts do this, that it's like, oh, I never said that. You did, but then you just took it back in the same comment. So no, I genuinely hope that they eat their words. So I just don't get why people are just so against James Higgins. Like, I understand their concern, like why he fell so far, but it sometimes things just fall on your lap. Perfect example, Neil Yakupov went first overall. How well did that go? It didn't. Sometimes David Pastrnak went 25th overall. He scored 106 points on a non-playoff team. 106 points, non-playoff team.
Yep. And what was his percentages last year? I can't remember the specific stat that I was looking at, but he had the highest percentage of all players on every team for, I think, what was it, points or something like that? It was, or points.
I think it was like
points per game average, or it was one of those stats where it was just like, cool. You look at this past Bruins team of the past year, non-playoff team, quite terrible after the quote unquote All-Star break, Four Nations break, whatever you want to call it. And he still is producing. He's still pretty much the only one producing on that team. And him and Geeky. It's just, if he can do that on a team where there's no cohesion, the team isn't looking like a Boston Bruins team. Imagine what happens when you get some talent around him, and when there's other lines that actually have some talent on there. That way you can get some points on the board and not have to fight from behind every game.
Yeah, I also want to temper up expectations too. Like, I'm not expecting James Higgins to come out and score 82 points this rookie season. I'm not looking for that. I'm not
looking for that,
because that's not fair. But if I'm looking and I'm seeing continuous progression for this kid, because he's going to learn. Like, right, Rick, you being a Montreal Canadiens fan, yeah, you can't expect a player, because you're talking generational talent, like the McDavids, the Ovechkins, the Crosbys. Right. You're talking those guys. I'm not saying Higgins is one of those guys, but he could develop into a very solid NHL player. And I shouldn't say very solid, a very, very strong NHLer. And so I hope he proves his haters wrong. And I welcome to Boston, kid. Welcome to Boston. We love you already. I do anyway.
Yep. You compared him earlier to Nick Suzuki. Nick Suzuki, when he came in, nobody thought he was number one center. I did. I was one of the few that were, supportive that way. But I mean, he showed that progression every year. Every year, his points totals went up, and this past season, he was over a point per game. So there's no reason why this kid can't develop into that. It's up to him. It's up to him. But why can't he develop into something like that?
Yep.
And a number one center. Nobody thought Nick Suzuki was a number one center. Now you'd say not too many people don't think he's a number one center.
I agree.
Exactly.
We also we spoke quite a bit about James Higgins. We made 7 total selections in the NHL draft. 1 in the first round, 2 in the second round, and one of those second round picks was William Moore, a center, another BC commit. We got him at 51, but he was projected like
higher,
early second round, like late first round. So yeah, people are saying that he might be a steal. He's 6'3", I believe. I'm going to pull up his hockey DB here.
6'2".
I'm sorry, he's 6 feet tall. I don't know. Yeah.
6'2", 175. It's not bad.
Yeah. Tall. Nope. He needs to put on a little bit of weight, but that's fine. That's fine. But Steve, I don't know how much you've heard about him, but he's been like a hockey IQ, great playmaker, good offensive hands too. Like that's what I've read about the kid. Yeah. So I'd be interested to see this. And again, the second round guys can make it too. Like they could be just as good as the first round guys. We saw it with Bergeron, we saw it with Marchand. They may have been anomalies, but another guy I'm looking forward to seeing. Another BC commit, likely going to be playing with Higgins.
Yep, and that's good, right? I mean, if they can develop some sort of chemistry and camaraderie into that locker room, I think a big deal. It transitions, right? I mean, it's one of those things where there wasn't really a lot of good locker room feelings going on in the last season from all the interviews and all of these things that we can just assume about.
But if that said it himself.
Exactly. Excuse me. But again, if that can translate into, your future career, right? I mean, you're looking for a promotion there. You're looking to go to the show. And if that translates in there, you have buddies that are there that you kind of came up with that speaks to it, right? And I think that's an important aspect too. I'm not saying that, let's go take the entire Boston University or Boston college teams and put them on.
Yeah, and then turn them into the Boston
Bruins.
Bruins.
What I mean? But, you have one or two guys in there. It could really play a good factor into kind of restoring that locker room and, bringing some of that, good vibe back. But again, I don't have a problem with bringing another BC guy in there. That full disclosure.
You hear that, Belger?
I'm a BU fan, right?
You hear that,
I'm a
Maz?
BU guy. Exactly. I'm a BU guy. My mom went there. I grew up going to, those games. I grew up, going to Walter Brown and the Agganis Arena. So, I'm a very much proud Boston University supporter. Love their hockey team. I try to go and watch as many games as I possibly can, even when they're on Nesson or
But they're
ESPN.
BC, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you're still playing against them, and
you'll see them.
I will speak to the credibility of that. BC and BU are very much rivals, right? But the fact is, those are two of the best college programs that are in this country, and consistently going to a Final Four for the past couple seasons. That's important, right? That builds that. That builds that pedigree that they have, right? When BU and BC do well, and you get those guys into the pros, they instantly make those teams a lot better. I mean, Charlie McAvoy, Jack Eichel, BU guys, right? They make a difference in the lineup. So what I'm saying is, I'm giving credit where credit's due to that BC program because, again, they have been doing very well to the point where I'm jealous of that program right now. And who knows what else can come out of these guys. I'm not saying draft the whole team, but having 1 or 2, 3 guys on that team can really probably turn this team around or turn any team around. I mean, Jack Eichel, look how important he is in Vegas. It's just one of those things where whatever they learn, whatever's in that water at those programs, it makes a
dirty
difference,
water.
Exactly.
I just want to say something here. If you're enjoying this show, please hit that like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Please do that. And we're trying to hit 500 subscribers. Help us get there. Appreciate that.
Rick, are you familiar at all with Hockey East? Like the collegiate NCAA levels?
Yeah. I mean, not greatly, to be honest, but a little bit.
I mean, you see it too because, people used to make fun of certain leagues, right? Some leagues were stronger than others and so on and so forth. But you've seen the U.S. creep up more and more in the competitive field, and that speaks a lot to the collegiate level of hockey in the USHL development, teams on how they're developing their players. I mean, U.S. won back-to-back gold in the IIHF juniors, I believe. So, you got to give credit to where credit's due. So when I hear people, talk so poorly about, Hockey East, I'm like, they're breeding hockey players. Like Minnesota, Boston, New York, they're breeding these players. It's insane. Are they always going to be the most competitive individuals in the world? No, but could they be, at least NHL level talent?
When I was young, college hockey players weren't a thing. But, man, college hockey's gotten so much better, and there's a lot of great players in the league that are coming out of college hockey. So,
I think last year, do you remember watching the Beanpot at all, Goose?
No.
Okay. Well,
was it Harvard or Northeastern that won that? Aren't they like a 3-peat or 4-peat or something?
I honestly can't remember right now.
I call myself a Boston fan. I should be ashamed of myself.
I honestly can't remember at this point right now. It's kind of late and my brain is fried. But either way, right? There was a commercial at the Beanpot where it was Jack Eichel, Charlie McAvoy, all these other players that went through a Hockey East program, talking about how, hey, no other conference or league sends more collegiate hockey players to the pros. And that's true. You go back 20 years, look at how many pros come out of a Hockey East not just BU or BC, but all of the Hockey East.
Northeastern,
and that's why That's why I
Harvard.
say it's the SEC of hockey. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's just what it is. That's why Maine has a great program. Maine is, they might not win a national championship, but they still have a great program. Providence, very good program.
I think Maine won Hockey East this past year.
I think they did too.
If I'm not mistaken.
But
I think because I'm a Black Bear fan, so
yeah, to credit them, it's just like these programs that are around the Hockey East. It's they send guys up to the show, and that's just what it is. Yeah. And all the stats are behind them on that, and that's why I don't get why the Felger and Mazes of the world want to rag on Hockey East products, especially like when they're producing some of the most professional athletes for hockey there is, right?
They did mention that. I think it's because and what made Felger so sick about it was that the fact that the Bruins just keep doing it, and then they blamed it on laziness because obviously BU and BC are right down the road, so it's easy for them just to go scout these players. But at the same time, I'm like you're in if you were in Minnesota, to me that's the same thing. Like, you know what I mean? Because Minnesota, they create hockey players. So if you're the Wild, it would make sense that you would also send a lot of scouts that way. It's local. You don't have to spend too much money. I don't know. It just makes sense to me. I just it has, to me, it's has all logic and reasoning kind of went exited the building in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I going to send one of my scouts to Sweden for a C-level prospect when I have a U.S. born or another Swedish player that's playing in the NCAA that has a higher ceiling and they're playing in a more difficult league? You know what I mean? If you think about that, it's
also stupid rationing about why you shouldn't draft a player. That's stupid rationalizing. Excuse me, for why you shouldn't draft a guy because he's in Boston College and it's easy to scout him. Well, maybe that means it's easy to scout him. You've seen him a lot. You really know this player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Follow
it's more of the reason.
There was a reason. Another example is there was a reason why the Islanders wanted Higgins, and they were willing to. The owner had openly said he will greenlight anything to get that 7th overall pick. And I bet Higgins you any money.
But isn't Higgins from that area?
He's from Long Island, yes.
Yeah.
He grew up an Islanders fan.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and I bet you the only reason why they were not able to move up in the draft was because I bet you any amount of money Matthew Barzal was part of that package. They wanted Barzal back in return, and they were not willing to move him. And so that's where I think they were not able to pick up, because you got to think that 4th overall pick, Utah was not married to that. They were willing to move it, but they probably wanted Barzal in return.
Right. Well, you try to get a pick like that, it's a big ask.
It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you.
Big
time.
Cost
you, And I'm not saying, but the Barzal alone would have got it done. I'm not there might have been a bigger deal that needed it, but I bet you that's why they said they probably said Barzal's off the table, and they're like, well, then we don't have anything that we really want out of you. They don't want an Adam Pelech. They don't want a Romanov. They don't want a fucking JG Pajot. I'm sorry, if Sweeney would have taken JG Pajot and fucking some other bum for the 7th overall pick, I probably don't even know what fan of it. I would quit. I would cease being a Bruins fan because of Don Sweet, because that's how much he would have ruined my life. Thank you, Don. But back to the draft. That was Willie Moore was one of our 2nd overall. BC commit. Fuck you, Felger. Fuck you, Maz. Not that you guys care, but whatever. Our 2nd pick in the 2nd round, Liam Pettersson, left shot, left defenseman, another 6 foot tall, needs to put on weight. Haven't heard much about the guy, but he's described as a mobile 2-way defender. I thought we needed more on the right-handed side, but who knows? Again, this isn't a guy we're expecting to jump into the NHL right away.
Of course not. It's probably for development it's probably one of those guys that you're going to develop and maybe couple in with a trade to get somewhere that you want, right? If you need a 3C, looping up a 3rd round pick and a defenseman if they need it, right? It's like one of those guys where they're going to develop and maybe potentially ship off, especially if you need help on. Again, we got plenty of guys with the left shot on defense. We need guys with the right shot who can actually translate to the pros and move forward. But, who knows what Don Sweeney's thinking at this point, right? Nobody knows except for Don.
Well, just to remind you, and Rick will back me up on this, like, so this wasn't an extremely deep draft. I mean, there's probably talent hidden somewhere in here, but it was not one of the deepest drafts. Like, according to the Central Scouting and a whole bunch of other opinions, it was not a deep draft. Like, out of, I think, the top, it was a steep drop out of like the top
after
10.
Yeah, no, even before in the top 10 there was a drop off.
Yeah,
so
after you
guys, pretty much after you guys was expected.
I would say after 7.
Yeah,
but I mean, it probably would have been early. But Brady Martin going 5 was absolutely insane.
I find that weird. Last year, I remember hearing people say in the draft, "This isn't even a good draft. Next year's draft is going to be great." And then it comes and it's like not a deep draft. I don't get that.
It happens every year. Almost, I feel like
I have heard a lot that the 20. Well, because they're early projections, right? Like they're early. Like people will start projecting for next season, like they did it last season. James Higgins was projected number 1 around this time last year, and he went 7. So you know what I mean? There's going to be those fluctuations, but I don't know. I'm just going to breeze by the remaining because round 3 was Cooper Simpson, left-handed left winger, described as a heavy shooter and puck handler. There was a surprise in round 4 that the Bruins took defenseman Vasek Blanar. He was touted as a reach. He's a left-handed left defenseman, but I watched some of his. He's 6 foot, big motherfucker.
6'4", yeah.
But he looked in development camp like he had some good skill. So I don't know, but he's projected to be a top 6 defenseman. It's not saying much, but take what you can get. Round 5, we had Cole Chandler.
5. The picture, he looks like he's 5.
He does. Have you seen his picture, Steve?
Show it. Put it up there.
Here, look at that.
He just looks so young.
That's a young boy. Yeah.
That looks like they took the kid out of mites. Like no facial hair, nothing. Like I don't know when they took that of him, but he's
only 18. I mean,
someone needs to check. Dude, at 18, I looked older.
Yeah,
I have a baby face. I have a baby face, buddy.
The older we get, the younger these guys actually look. They just look incredibly young. And I'm 62 now, so you can imagine how young they look for me.
You know what's sad? Two of our, I think, 7 picks don't have pictures. Like poor Liam Pettersson doesn't have anything. Cole Chandler doesn't have anything on their hockey DBs anyway. And then this guy Kirill Yemelyanov has one.
They don't have where they're born there. Just born. Where, though? You have to look and see where he played. But the American and Canadian kids show where they were born. What country and everything.
I would imagine like with a name like Yemelyanov, Russia.
Well, it says RUS MHL. That's Russian MHL league.
Yeah.
There
was no data on Vasek Blanar either. Yeah, I'll cut you off.
Why'd you cut off his number?
No, I don't think there was much of anything there. It was
probably one line.
Like they didn't have much data on him. He was projected like round 6 and 7, and he went 4. So,
yeah, that could happen. I mean, it's a reach, but they saw something they liked in him.
Yeah,
maybe. And it was not a great draft. Say it's not that deep. Well. So if you're in round 4, but you see a guy you like, you draft him. It's not a great draft at that point,
Yeah. And
so
you want to know
maybe this kid will turn out and it'll be that one of those gems like you were just talking about.
Open.
And you never know because you never know because it's all like like they may not have like that talent yet, but that doesn't if they have the compete. And if they want to learn and become that player, they might. Like, you never know when that's going to happen. Like, a lot of people, no, odds are not. You're right. You're absolutely right. But sometimes you find a couple of those players that are just like, I want to prove something to you, so I'm going to.
That's why scouting is very important. I know with the Habs, it wasn't this way before the current administration, but their goal is to hit a home run on every single pick they make. Now they don't do it every time, but I mean that's the intensity that they scout and that they pick with, and it's important.
What would you rather have? A highly talented player, but who doesn't have that much drive, or a talented player that has a ton of drive?
Talented player with a ton of drive.
Yep, talented player with a ton of drive. That's how the Tom Brady's of the world are created.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Might not be the best player in the draft or anything like that. But that drive, that compete factor is what takes people to that next level, right? And that's what you're kind of hoping. When you draft is hey, I might not be the best right now, but I'm going to put 110% effort in. Yeah, I'm going to put 110% effort in there.
And look at Brendan Gallagher, whether you like him or not, but look at him. He would be nobody without the drive and determination and the way he plays. He wouldn't be who he is without that. He wouldn't have made it. He was a 5th round pick, and he would not have made it.
May Johnny Gaudreau rest in peace, but so many people had him down bad because of his height and his size. And look at what he accomplished, and look what he did. Like players like him, Marchand, they did a lot for quite literally the little guy. Like, you know what I mean? Because you can even show at your height and weight, you can be an impact player. So anything is freaking possible. And those guys were driven. And that's what I mean. Like, would I take a guy that has extremely high talent, but is just coasting because he knows he's that talented? Over a guy who is just a run-in-the-mill NHL player, an average NHL player, top 6 forward, clearly talented, but has that drive. I'm going to take that guy 10 times out of 10 because he's going to be the one that leads the team to the championship. You know what I mean?
That's why they interview him before the draft. That's why they ask the questions that they do. And you want to weed that lackadaisical guy that just thinks he's too good. I don't want that guy on my team.
Yeah.
No.
And Steve, you guys might agree. That's what I'm getting out of Higgins. He clearly showed that he wants to be that person. He didn't seem happy that he went 7. I mean, he's happy to be a Boston Bruin. He's happy to be in the NHL, but naturally a competitive guy always wants to be number 1, right? So I don't know. I see that. I want to see it. And if I see it in BC, if he goes off and score, if he's still a point per game player or a 1.5 point per game player, I'm happy with that.
A little progression. That's all you need to see. A little progression every year.
Even if not in points, if you think about it, players can impact so many other different ways on the ice, even if not directly on the score sheet. So let's just say he scores 37 points in 40 games next season, right? But he's good defensively. He's making smart hockey IQ plays. I'd still consider that progress.
Well, you can't expect a guy to go out there and score every shift, right? That's you can't even expect a guy to go out there and score every game. Those
I don't know.
Have you
met?
Go ahead.
I don't know. Have you met? I don't know. Have you met some Boston Bruins fans?
Well, yeah, I have.
Sometimes they do.
They do, but the overall expectation.
No offense to Boston Bruins fans, but we're spoiled.
Yeah,
Habs fans.
Steve, I'm sorry.
I don't know if we're spoiled.
Well, no.
I mean, to be honest with
Boston
you,
fans in general.
Yeah, Boston fans in general were definitely spoiled. Boston Bruins fans, though, nothing is quite like that agony of making it to the Stanley Cup final and blowing it and being in pain. I mean, it's just it's not even just twice. It's just look at our my father's generation, right? The generation before that, they'd make it to the playoffs and make deep runs and then blow it in game 7s all the time. And it's just God, why are we even fans of this? You sometimes you're left questioning, just why am I? This is bad for my health. Why am I even going down this road? And then here we are, July. What is it? 5th now, right? We're already talking about it and spinning our wheels back up to it, right? It's just one of those things where we're suckers. We always come back for more. Rather
Ooh,
than
don't be Leafs fans. Ooh.
Yeah,
Perfect.
We're not quite as bad as Leafs fans, but we're still
don't want to do that. Yeah.
No, we're hopeful but realistic at the same time. Like we'll just be like, we're gonna be okay, but we're not gonna say it's our year. And that's like Steve, perfect segue into free agency and the trades because
I got one thing to say before that.
Talk about it. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say this because it's something Steve said. Growing up, and my whole life, I've only seen the Habs lose the finals once. Calgary in '89. Every other time they were in the finals, they won. In my lifetime, that I remember. So, just bragging a little bit. No, that's all it was. It was just a brag. Don't worry about it.
It's a weird brag, but it's okay. I get it. You're a Habs fan.
Good for you, I guess. Like I don't know. I wasn't even a thought at that point. You fucking dinosaur.
Me either.
Like. Hey, I think I was still my dad's balls. Like at that point, like actually, I don't even think my mother was born at that point. That's not true.
What point?
She was
when I was born.
Yeah, no, she wasn't.
Well, she's not 62. She wasn't.
Oh.
No.
Thanks for the Thanks for the quick maths, Rick. Big shock.
You're welcome.
We get to our favorite topic, which is the one I was so excited to talk about this week. Oh my God. July fucking 1st was the opening day of free agency. And now, mind you, okay, fine. A lot of the big names came off the board. Marner, Besser, sure. And so you were left with Nikolai Ehlers. Okay, cool, great. We traded for Victor Arvidsson. Fine, okay, sure. You gave up a 5th round pick for him. We have him 1 year, $4 million. Whatever. He's a filler. You're never gonna. I swear to God, if they resign him next year, I'm gonna throw my mic out the window.
Yeah, 1 year.
He's a puck shooter at least.
I don't even know if it depends on how he does this season. I mean, like if he does okay, like sure, you might extend him for another year. But I mean, I think he comes with a pretty hefty price tag for a 1 year, $4 million. I mean, it's a little too hefty for what I wanted to see out of it. I mean, we had a decent amount of cap space.
Oh, you think that's hefty? Just wait.
Oh, I know. Trust me. I'm waiting for you to break the news. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. We had $13 million, and you go out and sign seven fourth liners, or bottom 6 guys, mostly fourth liners. It's just. It is.
Yeah.
It has Don Sweeney written all over it. Like this is his MO.
I'm sorry. I should say this. Most are bottom 6ers. Like you could argue Victor Arvidsson is a middle 6er.
You think so?
Ceiling, like his ceiling is definitely a second line right wing. I wouldn't put him any higher than that. But I'm not going to say he's a solid second line right winger. I think he's best suited on the third line, but he's definitely not a fourth line guy. And I will say this, like Edmonton was beyond stupid for scratching him in game 6. Like, I'm sorry, you needed a guy that shot the puck to get pucks to Bobrovsky, and you didn't play him. You chose Jeff fucking Skinner over the guy, and that guy fucking blows. Like
he's a former 50-goal scorer, though.
Yeah, once in his fucking career? Good for him.
I think twice, but you might be right. It was only once.
Yeah, whatever. He had 2 fucking good seasons, and then he fell off a fucking cliff. I was waiting for Don Sweeney to sign him to a 5-year, $8 million contract just to freaking screw with me. I posted that on Twitter because I was just so done with it. No, okay. The Arvidsson one, I'm okay with. You gave up a 5th round for him, so you basically gave up nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
I think it's fair, especially on this team. I think he might be a solid line 2, especially with who's on our team right now as it stands. I think, anywhere else or almost anywhere else, he'd be definitely a solid third line guy. But with what our makeup of this team is as it stands right now, he's probably going to be on the second line.
Can I tell you what that list reminds me of? The Habs when we had Bergevin as the GM. That's what he did. He went out and he freaking got fourth liners and like bottom 6 guys. Made good deals to get them, but I mean, you got to get better players than that.
Yep.
Here's. I mean, we'll discuss this once we get through all of the players in this. I mean, like I said, I didn't mind the Victor Arvidsson thing, but you helped out Edmonton. You knew they were in cap hell. Why the fuck did you pay for him?
Well, maybe they'll
Like,
make a
that's
deal
my
down the
gripe
road.
with the trade.
Maybe there's a deal coming down the road between teams, and they set it up by we'll do you a favor, you do us maybe that's what it is.
Maybe. I mean, that's very Trader Don.
Sure, maybe we do give Arvidsson back to Edmonton at 50% retained during the deadline, and they give us something more. I don't know. Listen, the Arvidsson one doesn't bother me that much. I will say that. Yeah. That one doesn't really bother me.
You gave up
I'm okay with that. You needed to fill out.
Didn't hurt.
Yeah. The only gripe I had with that was the fact that it was you paid for something that I think you should have got for free, especially with the situation Edmonton was in.
Well, he wouldn't have been free. I think instead of $4 million, it should have been around $3 million.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You paid a little too much.
I think we paid a little too much for him. But at the end of the day, it's a 1-year contract. Fine. Whatever.
Yeah, and the 1-year contract
don't resign him. For the love of fucking God.
In reality, a 1-year contract is not that risky, but it is a bit of an overpayment. But it's 1 year. It's not that risky.
Yep.
I will say this:
the money that you could use somewhere else, that's the problem. And you might find he wasted some money that down the road a deal might come up and he can't take the deal because he wasted the money.
Yeah. Yep. Trust me, it wasn't the Arvidsson deal that I think he wasted money on. But I'll get to that later because I feel like I need to say that one going to cause a rant out of me that it will be unfathomable.
Right. But between the two of them, I think you have a point there.
But even still with Victor Arvidsson, okay, fine. So they retain $1 million. So if Edmonton retains $1 million, what fucking ever? Like, who cares? Like, I'm okay with that. Like, it's fine.
It's okay.
I'm okay with it. You need to fill out the roster. I'm okay with it.
Yep.
And then they brought back Sean Corrali, again, a fourth liner, 2 years by $1.8 million. I'm fine with that.
I like that one.
I'm fine with that.
I
actually do enjoy that one.
I don't know him that well, but his name, every time we'd play you guys, his name was I'd always hear it. So that's a good deal. 2 times 1.8. That's not that bad.
And it fills out, he could be either, a third or fourth line center in a pinch, right? Yeah. I mean, he's probably going to be in there for fourth line as it stands right now, but who knows? If some chemistry, I think the upside on Sean Corrali is, we got him for 2 years. He's kind of a filler player. 1.8, not that much. At the end of the day, if a cup contending team, great penalty kill player. That could be traded down the road to a potential cup contending team for sure. I think the upside for Sean Corrali is definitely there. And we didn't spend too much money on him, and it's a short contract. And I think overall that's probably the A+ or A of what Don Sweeney did.
Comparatively speaking, that's probably an A+ deal. But I don't know. I would consider I'd consider it a B. I think you brought back a good fourth liner because apparently you don't feel Johnny Beecher was doing it for you on the fourth line. I also agree with that. Johnny Beecher did not have a great year. What you were expecting out of him. So then you bring in a guy to help, tutor him along a little bit because he's still young, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm fine with Corrali. The Corral leap is back, baby. I'm fine with it. Another one I was fine with was Asimon. Again, a fourth liner, 2 by $1.4 million. He's serviceable. Yep. He's a heavy hitter. You lost Lauko. Because you didn't offer him or tender him a qualifying offer. You lost Cole Koepke, so you had a vacancy there. It doesn't seem like you're ever going to call up Georgi Merkulov, so God fucking forbid we ever let the kids play. So sure, why not?
I think we should have offered Koepke a little more though instead of him. I think Koepke would have been overall better for us in the long term. Even if it's a 2-year deal with whatever qualifying number it was, I think Koepke should have been retained on our team instead of this guy, though. If that's one of the points we're trying to argue,
I can agree to that. Either Koepke or Lauko. I could agree to either Kepke or Lauko. One of those two. You had to keep. I think you should have kept those two because then if you're adding Sean Corrali and then you have Kostelic, you need a little bit of speed on that line. But also Lauko, I would have preferred Lauko because Lauko adds a little bit of grit, right? So I just don't know. I'm okay with Asimon. I think it's fine. I think that one's okay because again, it's not that expensive of a deal, and it's 2 years.
Doesn't hurt you.
And with the
really.
cap projections,
it doesn't hurt you much. You know?
And he was also, and also when we played against him and when he played for Tampa, he was a pain on the Bruins side. Now he gets to play on the other end. Like he was.
Well,
like,
that's what you're hoping out of your fourth liner is just to be a pest. You know, mix it up a little bit, cause a little chaos, cause a little havoc down.
An NHLer who'll give you something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if it's the fourth line, but again, you need four strong lines to make anything happen.
That's right. In today's NHL, you need to roll 4 lines.
Yep.
Again, with the way those were, I mean, the first line I don't think is as much of an issue. Lindholm looked like he was finally coming through. Pasternak is Pasternak, and Geekie. I just question whether or not Geekie is going to be able to sustain what he did, and if he can, great.
If he continues to play with
26,
he's 26, but I think if he continues to play with David Pasternak, he will be as good as he was this year. I think Pasta is one of those guys that makes people around him better, and I think that's what is going to happen with Geekie. And I'm a huge fan of Geekie actually. I think
Geek Squad, baby.
For real. I think him with the Pasta connection, it will definitely pay out on our end a little bit. Just kind of to summarize what I'm feeling on that.
Pasta could have turned Trent Frederick into the fucking I don't know, next top tier left wing, whatever. So I mean, Pasta is just that good on the Bruins. It is a good effect.
With Geekie at 26, he's just entered his prime. He's coming off of his best season, I'm gonna assume. You got to expect this guy's he's looking up. I doubt. I wouldn't expect a downswing from him. Mm-hmm. He should be getting better.
It's great confidence too. I think think it's great. Like scoring 30 goals is big. Like I think you blew a milestone. Like scoring 20, great. Chip off the shoulder. Score 30, even bigger, even better. I'm fine with that.
As you're entering your prime, you just hit 30 goals. I would expect this kid's gonna, try to improve on that, or at least give you that level again.
Mm-hmm. 40 goals. You know what I mean? That's might be his own personal goal of like, hey, I just hit 30. Let's go for 40. Who knows? Again, he's playing with Pasta, and I think if Lindholm stays healthy, I think that line will actually.
That was the problem.
That line will actually be pretty deadly. Now, the other problem though is what are the other 3 lines doing?
So here's the thing. So Steve, did you see that actually Lindholm was playing the year through an injury? I can't remember what, but it did impair his ability to play. Yeah, he was supposedly. Supposedly it was enough that it was nagging.
Yeah, it was a nagging injury all year.
Yeah.
When you're projecting him though, it's a question mark because he's had a few down years where he's showed not progression. It's a question mark at best, right? Going into the season doesn't mean he won't have a good season. I'm just saying when you're projecting, it's hard to predict what he's going to do.
Of course. I think
that's how I'm looking at it.
I think
I can defend Lindholm in so many facets. I mean, like the team just could not finish. The goal scoring was just such a huge problem for the Bruins. But I digress. But to Steve's point about what you have the top line figured out, right? And you mentioned the other 3. I'm like, to me, it's. You have the top and you have the bottom because your bottom line is going to be without a doubt on starting night. It's going to probably be Asimont, Corrali, and Kostelic. Like, what's that sandwiched? What do those 2 sandwich lines look like? You got to figure Zacha, Middlestat, and then Arvidsson, and then Tanner, Jeannot, either Minton or Patra, and then God fucking knows who. Like. And maybe Lysell. I don't know. But oh my god, sorry.
But where you guys are at, that's what stage you're at. You got to find the guys for the spots that are kind of holes on the team.
Of course.
You're in a bit of it's a reset.
13
That's what it is.
Rick, we had $13 million.
Yep.
Yeah, he could have done better.
What
with
the
it.
He could have
fuck?
did better.
Yeah.
I just wanted to circle back to Lindholm, though. I mean, I guess I'll clarify what my hopes are for the season is 15 to 20 goals, especially playing with Geeky and Pasta, right?
Fair. He's more of a passer. Yeah.
He's more
not
of
really
a
scorer,
passer. But if he gets 30 assists out of that to Geeky and Pasta, I'm okay with that. If he's producing,
If he scores 50 to 60 points, I'm happy.
Yeah, 50 to 60 is what I would be happy with, especially being
center, right?
First line center. Exactly.
Oh, you need 60 points.
You need 60 out of that. But who knows what this injury is and how that will play with it. But again, I'm hoping for 50. Conservatively, 50 points out of that, especially after this year that he had.
Yeah, and it's more, and Rick, it's not so much because like it's a first line center thing at present. It's because of the current state of the team. Like that's it. You have a new coach coming in. It's like I'm tempering my expectations for him. Like now, if Montgomery was still here and we were still working things out, and then they had a better training camp and a whole bunch of other things, and people were healthy, then yeah, I would say he needs to at least get you 60 points. But as of right now, between 50 and 60. I think I'm okay with him, and then he needs to have another rebound year after that. But my God, this just going back to heading back to the free agency, that Tanner Jeannot signing. Oh my God!
All right, we're really getting into this. Okay,
who the fuck did that?
Who do you mean?
Don Sweeney. Don Sweeney did
that. I have to process this. You traded Trent Frederick, and then you basically signed his 28-year-old equivalent to pretty much the same amount of money, but 3 years less or 2 years less. So you effectively gave Jeannot the same fucking contract. Why? The money, you know what it is, guys? The money, the $3.4 million isn't the fact that bothers me. It's the fact it's 5 fucking years.
5 years.
Well,
that shouldn't have been more than 3.
I agree. And it's just a classic case of Don Sweeney overreaching on both the years and the dollar figure, right? If you want to keep this guy for 5 years, 2.5. I mean,
and I think the expectations too, I'm sorry, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, they're expecting him to score a goal.
He's a fourth liner.
Tanner Jeannot's allergic to the puck.
He's a fighter, basically.
He's a bottom sixer for sure.
Yeah, he's a bottom sixer.
Yeah,
and I have some stats on
Trent Frederick, except Trent Frederick could score a goal.
Yep, and he had one season where he got 40 points. Yep. He had one season that got him 30 points, and one season that got him 20 points. 20 points, not goals, points total.
And
it's not good.
Isn't the 40-point season, and then Tampa gave like 5 first-round picks or something for the guy?
Everything.
Like it was, the list was crazy of picks.
Yeah.
You probably want to talk about the worst NHL trade in history. Probably that.
It's one of them.
Like 3 or 4. I think it was like 3 first-round picks for the equivalent to something for a fucking fourth-line forward. Holy fuck!
It was 5 first and seconds.
God.
It was a lot of picks, good picks, and they dumped him like on you guys, right? Somebody did. No, you got him from LA, I guess, right?
Yeah,
we signed him from free agency.
Yeah, we
didn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
He didn't cost.
That's actually
I know.
He's costing us $3.4 million.
That's enough. That's enough.
I mean, I think it's a combination of the years and the dollar figure that followed behind it, right? It's either one or the other, especially for a fourth liner who is supposed to be a quote unquote replacement player, right? Your fourth line, you need to have a functional fourth line, but at the same time, your fourth line, your third line are made up of those replacement players where, they're going to be up and down from, the AHL to NHL to try to see what works and who's working and all those things. But you're paying 3.4 for 5 years for a fourth line guy. Oh, and I'll give credit where credit's due. This dude is tough as shit. He's a tough guy.
Yeah.
But we need goals. We couldn't finish to save our lives last year. Yeah. And you decided to spend the house on this guy. for a fourth liner. What are you doing, Don? What are you doing? It makes absolutely no sense.
You want to know what drives me crazy? You have Mikael Granlund sitting right there too. I think he was still a free agent at the time. Like, you didn't want to toss $5 million at him. Like,
instantly
maybe
improves that lineup
4.5
more than Tanner.
Yeah, like at least Granlund did like scores goals or something. Like, I don't know, or fucking Jonathan Drouin. I don't know. Like, why him?
Okay, can I make a point on that? It goes to a point I made earlier. You do that with Granlund, and maybe you miss a deal that you now can't take advantage of. Like, this is what Montreal is doing. They're not making moves to make moves because
who the fuck is taking that contract?
Well, that's what I think. That's the point that he's trying to make. Who's going to take that contract, even if we try to do that? But also, what happens when we get a player
move him for 2 years?
You can't. Yeah, you can't move him for 2 years.
He has a full NTC for 2 years. Yeah, that was like the fucking icing on the cake with that deal.
That honestly, arguably makes it even worse, right? With the no trade clause on that for 2 years. But at the same time,
oh, he's got a no trade for 2 years.
For 2 years.
For 2 fucking years. And then after
it's like,
that,
why?
it is.
He's got pictures of Don Sweeney doing something.
Yeah,
wrong.
Clearly he's got it. I don't know. Someone's got shit on someone. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, of all the fucking players, like Jonathan Drouin, like, sure, I'm fixating on Drouin. Yeah, he's injury prone, but you want to know what? Like, at least he scores goals. Like, why a guy that if the puck hit him in the face, he still wouldn't know what to fucking do. Like, or what it looks like. This was the one thing by Sweeney. I'm just like, really? Well, all of them? And you didn't want to toss you didn't want to toss an offer sheet at Maxim Siplikov, who's now going to arbitration? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Why?
It's just overall dumb. It's dumb by Don Sweeney. And it's like you wouldn't offer 5 by 3.4 to Sean Thornton, would you? Right? Like, that's just like one of those things. And that's essentially what it is. And at least Sean Thornton, he could score a little bit. He could mix it up, stand his big ass in front of the net and tip one of this.
A little bit.
But not a lot. But he would cause some ruckus down
in the fucking ass. I hated that guy.
Exactly.
Hey, come here. I'll let you pick which hand I beat the fuck out of you with.
I mean,
honestly, great line.
It's probably the best line, and it's an all-time shit-talking moment. But again, you wouldn't pay that guy that amount of money. And that's what it seems like what you're doing there is just you're paying 3.4 for this guy to go out there and bury bodies into the glass and fight when you need to. He's
going to rack up the penalties. He's going to put you in so much penalty trouble.
Yeah.
Not like look at what Zadorov did last year. Albeit in the later half, like the second half, better. He got way better, 1,000 times better.
Oh yeah. Well, after I burned you guys for so many games, hey, I'm getting better. Like, really?
Yeah.
Another guy we're locked into for.
See, guys have only got 1 5-minute major this game, not 3.
Only cost you a couple of power play goals. That's all today. I'm good.
Yeah, the only way it's not even so much necessarily the money; it's the term. Like, if he would have done it like 2 years less, I would have been okay with it. It's just why are you stuck with this for 5 years?
I'm sorry. The money is at least $1.5 million too much.
I think 3.4 is okay, just not for 5 years. 2 years, maybe 3. That's it. That's all I'm
you're trying to, you're trying to reset. What are you trying to reset into?
Yeah, well, it's the quote unquote the famous quote from Don is we're going to retool. But again, by everything that he's just done, it seems like we're rebuilding
with the pile driver.
Yeah, we're retooling, but we're actually rebuilding, and we're actually not rebuilding. We're actually in a worse position now than we were a year ago from here.
Because he should come out and say, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but they gave me another 2 years. So
I'll say this: I genuinely thought, since we signed Michael DiPietro, I thought when we acquired Victor Arvidsson, I'm like, yes, that means Korpisalo has got to be going the other way, right? And then I just saw it was for a 5th round pick. I'm like, come on, Don, you piece of shit! Like, what are we doing? You have $13 million.
goaltending is hard to come by today. Corpy, like
man.
he's adequate.
But the point is, what I'm saying is, so here's my problem. By the way, fans, we also signed 7th defenseman Jordan Harris and another 7th D and Victor Soderstrom. 2 signings I actually don't mind. They're both for around $125,000. I'm okay with those. Like they're relatively young. Like what? Jordan Harris is still young, right? Like 24, I believe. 25?
Wasn't he an extension?
24,
as well?
And then
Harris, wasn't he an extension?
No, he was a signing.
Okay.
Both of them were signings.
Okay. And Harris
which is fine. Kid. I'm okay with taking. Yeah, and I'm fine. Oh, there we go. Where's Felger? Where's Maz? We're gonna get them. Even though I do agree with him on this Jordan Harris bid, he's not that great.
But he's a local kid. He didn't play in Boston though in college. He played, I think, at Northeastern. But he's a local kid from there. I think that's a good signing for $825. Harris isn't bad. He
didn't play in Boston. He played in Northeastern Boston.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. See, I don't know where Northeastern is.
Yeah, Northeastern's in Boston.
Oh, okay. So, but he's a Boston kid. He's got a really good attitude. He's a really good kid. I think for the price you're paying for him, that is a good signing.
I think overall the terms, the terms are good. 1 year by 8.
That's no risk.
That's no risk. That's low risk.
And I'll say this Steve will likely agree with me, on a team that historically has prioritized goaltending and defense over everything else. So he has a chance here to better develop his defensive skills. And Soderstrom I'm fine with. What I was not fine with at all was the Tanner Jeannot deal. You had, again, and to some degree, the Victor Arvidsson one, because I wanted Korpisalo gone. The whole premise of why I'm so pissed about the whole thing is, one, well, we have $2 million left out of the original $13 million that we had. But if you were anticipating that you were not going to be competitive at all, or at least you're not making the playoffs.
Nope.
We're not.
As it stands right now, we're not making the playoffs.
Your ceiling is 6th in the Atlantic, because I think you're going to be better than Buffalo. I mean, that's just it. You're going to be better than Buffalo.
You're hoping they're better than Buffalo. You're hoping, but
I don't think it's going to be
at this current moment. I don't know. I cannot give you a.
They traded away JJ Peterka for garbage, so I'm pretty sure we're going to be better than Buffalo. I'd be surprised
but Don Sweeney just signed Jeannot to 5 by 3.4. Right?
And what if Lindholm drops off again and has another one of those poor seasons? That's got to be a key negative for you guys for having a good season. Lindholm has to perform.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with that. But the only reason why I say we will be at least better than Buffalo and probably better than Detroit is because we will be carried by our defense and goaltending. Lindholm and McAvoy are 2 good, strong top 2 D-men. Then you have Zadorov and Andre Jokiharju, who have really showed it when we got Jokiharju that him and Zadorov were like a match made in heaven, playing top 2 minutes. And then you have Lohrei, who is an upcoming defenseman, and Andrew Peak, who just whatever. And then you hopefully have Swayman, who has a rebound year. That's the only reason I see them. I don't see the offense really doing anything. I see Pasternak having another 100-point year. But sorry, I digress. But if you're Sweeney and you know you're not going to be that competitive, why spend the money on these guys? You have Marat Husnudinov that you played. Again, a bottom 6er, probably 3rd liner, totally fine. You have Minton, you have Patra, you have Lysell, you have Beecher. Your roster was pretty much full. I want to know why that these guys are so dead set against allowing these kids to gain some NHL experience, because you might as well see what you have out of these kids at this point.
I agree with that.
You're gonna suck,
especially Matty.
So why aren't you rolling with the punches? Yeah. Patra killed it in Providence last year. Lysell's been killing it in Providence. Minton we just got. Merkulov's never getting a shot in hell. So it's why not give them their opportunity?
He's made moves that, like a GM that is trying to save his job, even though he just got signed for 2 years. He obviously wants longer. That's
it. That's a short lease though, Rick. 2 years.
Yeah, no, I for sure. But it seems to me they're almost like moves from a guy who doesn't know how to build a contender, and he made moves because he had to make moves, and they weren't well thought out, if you ask me.
So he's not
Agreed, but
building a
also
contender.
if
He's
he's
just
so
building a team
concerned,
to contend with the fighting. Sorry, go
if
ahead,
he's
Steve.
if he's so concerned on keeping his job after 2 years, wouldn't you put a little bit more thought and method into choosing the guys to make your team better?
But you're not capable. If he's just not capable, obviously.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like, why did we even extend him in the first place?
That's a good question.
And trust me, I will be the first person to say this. I've been on the fire Don Sweeney train for a very long time.
I thought for sure they were going to let him go.
I thought for sure that they were going. Again, one of the saddest days of my life was hearing that he got re-signed for 2 more years.
I was happy about it. But...
I mean, you as you should be, right? I mean, you should be happy. We, in Bruins Nation in New England, we don't know how to even take this. Again, we thought for sure he was out the door at the end of the season.
Yep.
And he should have been. Yeah. And he goes out and does, he gets a little, adrenaline in his veins with a 2-year extension, and then he goes and pulls this shit. How do you not get fired after doing this?
And quite frankly,
doesn't make any sense.
And quite frankly, he botched the Marchand thing. That was botched.
Oh my God. There are some people, I brought up a trade in hindsight, right? Hindsight is always 2020. And so I brought it up. So I'm like, guys, this is a clearly 2020 take. It's a hindsight take. It was not a good deal for Boston. It was not. In hindsight, at the time, it was. You can say at the time, there was uncertainty. There was uncertainty with it. Marchand was injured. But you got to be kidding me if you didn't think the doctors knew he wasn't going to play, but they didn't know to what degree. So fine, I'm willing to concede the point that at the time, of course, Don did what he could, and he did right by Marchand. Not going to argue that. But when you look at it in hindsight, and when you look almost at anything in hindsight, it was not the best return you could have gotten. So I wouldn't say he botched it, but if you look back on it now, then you could argue, it wasn't the greatest return. But at the time, I would say it was the best you could get.
Here's why I say he botched it. He let it go to the point where it was last minute and they had to rush a deal. And in that term, he botched it. Well, that's apparently what happened. If that is the truth, what happened, then he botched it. It was up to him to make that deal work out, or to make a deal, or at least to be prepared if it didn't, and have something, not have to scramble.
Well, it was either that or lose him for nothing.
Right, but he had to scramble at the last second to get that. He should have been more prepared.
It's the same thing with Vegas, and it was the same thing with Vegas and Marner. It was either do that or you lose him for nothing. So I mean, you had to split hairs there. So I mean, there's a lot to it. But no, again, you can look.
That's not the same as Vegas.
Marner would have walked.
Yeah, but
Marner would have walked.
Marchand was dealt at the deadline. It's not the same thing.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is,
where you got a short window for the team.
He was dealt after a sign-in trade, though. But but what I'm saying is, if they hadn't done that, he was likely going to walk. So
he was definitely going to walk.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so
if we're talking about that trade, that signing, I mean, you already had to expect him to leave Toronto, right?
Yeah.
And now he's going to a cup contending team, which I'm happy for him. He got a king's ransom. I would have paid that deal to bring him here. I mean, that deal was I think fair market value.
I wouldn't have
for that caliber
he wasn't
player.
Going to you guys.
He wasn't going to us. But what I'm saying is, if we had the funds available to make that happen, I think we should have done that. I'm not saying we were going to, but again, I think overall with the years and the dollar figure, I think that is a fair market value, and he's going to a top contending team, and I think that's what was more important to him.
Yeah, but Steve, why have a Mitch Marner, a Nikolai Ehlers, or a Brock Besser when you can have a fucking brand new shiny Tanner Jeannot?
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Exactly.
Like, why would you want that?
It was a simple decision for him. Come on.
$13 million. You need a left wing. And what do? You go fucking sign Tanner Jeannot to $3.4 million. No, you know what? The only thing I can rationalize on why he signed that deal was probably because Patra, Minton, and Lysell, like any combination of those three, are likely going to be part of that third line. And I bet you they signed him to protect them because they aren't the biggest forwards. Lysell's small, Minton's small, like they're not big. So I bet you that's why they're there.
I think that's a fair point, but also I don't think Matty P is going to stick around to the end of the season with us. I think at the trade deadline they're probably going to dish him.
Oh, you can't. No, I swear
listen,
fuck.
I don't want that to happen, but I think with what Don Sweeney has done and done in the past and has done these things, I think that's very on brand for him to get rid of a young talent to try to make something function for right now. I'm not saying that's the best move. I'm not saying that's the best move. I'm not saying it's the right move, but I think that's very on brand for Don Sweeney.
I mean, we have a long season ahead of us too to contemplate those things, but I sincerely doubt that. But what if? I mean, it was one hell of a free agency, and I'm never going to get over this Tanner Jeannot thing. If he doesn't score at least 5 goals, I'm going to freak the fuck out.
I have another theory.
I'm trying to temper my own expectations. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
maybe Sweeney had trouble getting players because players don't, there's a lot of turmoil right now in Boston. Sweeney's, it's a new coach. Maybe players
it's a transitionary state.
Approached a lot of guys they didn't want to sign. It's very possible.
Mm-hmm.
He just couldn't get anybody else. But then
I agree.
Don't make moves that are going to stop you from being able to get guys when the opportunity arises, because you never know when that happens.
Or don't make moves that are going to hinder the young talent that you already have developing.
That's another thing.
From being able to make a roster, because they're basically saying what Sweeney did was basically say, I'm going to make it so that they need to earn their roster spot. No, what you basically did was tell those players that they need to outplay proven NHL talent. The only guy I feel like that they could definitely outplay is Tanner Jeannot. That's not hard to beat.
Sean Corrales.
But Michael Eyssimont, he's a proven NHL talent. Sean Corrales, proven NHL talent. Marcus Stella, proven NHL talent. Tanner Jeannot, fuck off. But like,
internal
you're basically telling me. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm saying what you did, especially with the caliber of that, like, because Eyssimont, Corrales, and Kosteluk, fourth line guys. That's a solid fourth line right there. I'm not saying it's not. But you're telling me that that's what Lysell, Patra, and Minton have to compete with? They're not even the same size as those guys.
Correct.
Like, what you also have to figure out too, what are you trying to build here? Because what you've just built is you're trying to go. You not only went back to the 80s look, but now you're literally the 80s roster where you just want to beat the fuck out of people.
Yeah,
there's no. That's plan. What I see out of that.
It looks like there's no vision. It's just what can I get? Oh, okay, put that. You'll sign. Okay,
you're throwing shit at a wall and hoping it
sticks.
Right.
I was literally just gonna say that.
It's what really, it looks like.
It looks like what it feels like. And you know what? If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
It's a fucking duck.
Right. You know what I mean? It's just, you're throwing shit against the wall and hoping it sticks, and that's exactly what these free agency signings just seem like. Yeah. And you know what? To that point of who knows? That's probably all that they could have gotten. Because again, I think most 90% of NHL players want their name on the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
right.
That's one point, and they want stability too. They want to be treated well.
Yep.
And that he hasn't really shown that he's done necessarily right by everybody. Hasn't handled all the situations right. If you look at Swayman, there might be a lot of reasons why guys might not want to go to Boston right now.
And you know what? I don't blame him, because as a fan looking at this, I'm sure most other teams and most other NHL players are looking at the Boston Bruins and be like, what the fuck is going on in Boston? Why would anybody sign there? Why would anybody go there?
Right.
What is the point of all these things? Are they trying to contend? Are they not trying to contend? Are they going to be contenders in 15 years? What is going on there? Why would I take the money to go there to put a to make my career go to a dead end?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any
another
sense.
point to this too is that you're spending money in a free agency year where the UFA class is garbage. That's another point to me where I'm just like, why waste all this money? Like Besser's off the board, Marner's off the board, You're left with Ehlers and Granlund and maybe a couple middle sixers, maybe middle sixers in there, right? Like I would consider Drouin a middle sixer, Michael Granlund a middle sixer. Like there's a couple of them there, right? But then you go and waste the money on something else. Like it just didn't make sense to me. And it still doesn't make sense to me. Like, why are you doing this? It's not like you were in danger of not hitting the cap floor. You had the money. So I didn't like if you would have just stopped at the Victor Arvidsson thing and then played the kids for the whole year, I would have considered that like I wouldn't call it a success. I wouldn't call it like a failure either. I would call it like you did what you did and you're building up to the next year. There's no reason that you're going to need to compete. You're not going to outplay Montreal. They just got Noah Dobson. Lane Hudson's a fucking stud. Their offense is coming together. You're not going to beat Tampa, who just doesn't seem to fucking go away. You're definitely not beating Florida, by the way, who has signed most of the Bruins. They signed Bussy and a couple other fucking Bruins players.
And most of the team
so they're now the Florida Bruins.
Stanley Cups. Yeah. I mean,
you're not outplaying Toronto, and you're not beating Toronto out of a playoff spot. So that leaves you with you're in the bottom of the Atlantic with Detroit and Buffalo. And Detroit, you are going to need to fight for the 6th spot.
Yep.
Detroit's also a fucking hot mess.
Detroit is a hot mess, but I have the genuine feeling that most of those guys on that team want to win, and they're kind of sick and tired of what their GM and what their coaching staff has been doing and how they're doing that.
Yep.
And you know what? Well, I don't remember the name of the captain for Detroit. It's
and the Sabres are done with the
Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin.
Was it Dylan Larkin?
Yeah,
so
Dylan Larkin.
With his comments postseason was saying, "Hey, the GM needs to do more to bring, make things happen for this." You know what I mean?
Yeah, Yzerman's got to do more.
Yeah,
something's wrong with what he's doing, man.
Exactly. And it's not Florida where you came in with basically a blank sheet aside from Stamkos at that point, right? And you built it around your goalie and Stamkos and made it work. Yeah, Tampa. That's what I'm saying. Because that's where Stevie Y was, and that's where he came from. That's where he came from, and look what he did in Tampa. You know what I mean? And whatever he did in Tampa is just not working. What he's trying to do in Detroit.
But in Tampa, he had some talent to work with.
He did. Well, that's what I'm saying.
He doesn't have the same talent, so you see where he's limited. So sometimes you have that talent, it makes you look great,
of course.
And then, but and look at Barry Trotz with being a great coach, crappy GM so far.
Yep. And listen, with Detroit too, defensively they're a hot mess. Like I'm sorry, outside of Edvinsson and Moritz Seider, there's not much there. Eric Gustafsson.
Well, Larkin is good. You can't say Larkin's no good.
No, I'm sorry. On the No, it's on the defensive end as well.
Okay, sorry.
And then you have I think I'm going to butcher his name. Pendelka, Palika. I'm sorry, Axel Sandin Palika, who's still down in their AHL affiliate, and so not ready to come up. But there really isn't much there, and I don't know. I don't know. And for some reason, they just love Patrick Kane.
I wouldn't have done that.
And I mean, listen, Patrick Kane was a talent, a franchise talent at one point, but he is,
he's old now.
He's old and he's washed. And hey, listen, if he gets, what?
To be fair, he had 38 points in 72 games last year. For a 36-year-old with as many surgeries as that man has gone through,
that's serviceable.
It's serviceable, but it's not Patrick Kane. You go, it's Patrick Kane. We got to get it. It's not that guy anymore.
It's not the 3-time Stanley Cup winner, Patrick Kane. You know what I mean? It's the guy that he's serviceable and he brings that name recognition.
Yeah,
but not going to make it.
And he gives you leadership and experience.
But that is who you're fighting for the 6th spot. So your ceiling is the 6th place in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah,
but you probably might get 7th. Because I genuinely think Buffalo's going fucking nowhere. I don't know
but
what they're doing.
You guys, it's the same thing for every team. If you're not making the playoffs, you should be at the bottom. And in a McKenna year, maybe that's what he's doing, is trying to build a team that will get you a chance at the 1st overall pick by winning the lottery.
If the Bruins get McKenna,
changes everything.
Will go streaking across Warrior Ice Arena.
Yeah.
Well, we won't, because we could get the 1st overall pick and Sweeney will pick the biggest, heaviest, meanest motherfucker over McKenna and I will lose my shit.
Well, if you have first overall pick and you're not taking McKenna, like right now, then you're an idiot.
Yeah, but also that's
Have
a very Don Sweeney move.
GM?
Yeah, that's a Don Sweeney move where you know you take something else as opposed to the guy who's supposed to be the guy, right? That's a Don Sweeney move, but also I highly doubt that the NHL.
But to be fair, he didn't
get that. I doubt that.
No.
It doesn't.
Somehow the Edmonton Oilers are going to end up with. Somehow the Edmonton Oilers are going to end up with it for some unknown reason. They're just going to somehow end up with the first overall pick without even having it. They're just going to merely have it.
What drives me insane is like the whole point of you're building the roster to tank. That is not the Boston Bruins identity. That is not what the Boston Bruins fans expect.
Okay, but
at this stage, it's like, what are you going to do? You're not a contending team, so why spend the money to do it?
It was the same with the Habs, but you know what? It's the way to go. You have to, if you're not going to be in the playoffs, then what are you trying to be, like 18th or 19th? Why are you trying to shoot for that? It's not going to get you anything.
Nope.
And it'll just keep you mediocre.
I don't know. The Islanders were picking 14th, and they jumped fucking 14 spots.
That's luck.
You never know.
You can't plan for that.
Yeah, that was Gary Bettman's balls in the fucking.
You can't plan for that
one.
For me, it's just a hard pill to swallow as a Boston Bruins fan to say that we're just going to tank this year. I mean, especially for what
it's not that bad when there's a player to shoot for. We went through it for the last 2-3 years, except last season. But the two before that, it was all about tanking, and it's not that bad. It's a rough season to get through if you got to watch every game like I do. Mm-hmm. I do all the games, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Can be rough, but
here's
the
watch
thing. Every game, and it's just like, what am I watching for? And also,
Steve, this year's going to be a fun year for you.
This year's going to be
an
excellent year.
I get
but
that.
Also bring down those ticket prices too, because
that's not happening.
We are the second. We have the second highest. We have the second. Boston is the second highest in terms of ticket prices. You're not. No one's going to pay $98 to go see us get blown out.
Who's paying for that quality of product? That's the point I'm trying to drive. Is if you think that Bruins fans are going to spend $98, $100 for back row of the Garden, it's not going to work. But nobody's going to do that. And when Jeremy Jacobs sees that his profits are dwindling, you bet your ass something is going to change. Because
but what should change?
We can't deal with that.
What should change on that is you improve the team, because if you got a good team, fans are going to be there.
No, that's what Steve is saying. That'll expedite the process.
Where the fuck do companies lower prices anymore? Where? Nobody does.
I mean,
no, they won't.
Chicago did.
Going to.
Chicago did. I mean, you can get good tickets.
Well, I think Chicago.
For I think that's what I'm trying to. That's the point I'm trying to drive.
I didn't know that.
The fact that who is going to pay for that product? If you're paying for a quality product, yes, you're going to keep those prices the same. But if they think that this shit product that they're going to put out this season, because let me be clear, this season is not going to be a good season. It's going to be a shit product to watch.
Do you think the Panthers ticket prices aren't going up? Oh, buddy.
They're going up.
They're going to go up.
They're going up.
Tampa. You think Tampa's ticket prices didn't go up? No, they'll go up. It's this. I agree with Steve. It's this ebb and flow, and the reason why Chicago was able to do it is because they won 3 Stanley Cups in the 2010s. So they hiked their prices up because you were paying to see that talent, and then when things quelled, they lowered them a bit. But the Jacobs are historically no. But yeah, I agree. They are cheap, but it's fine.
Known to be cheap.
They are known to be cheap.
And
that's all I'm trying to say. Is Bruins fans got to wake up and smell the coffee and know that this season is not going to be a Boston Bruins season, and don't show up again. Watch it on TV if you really want to watch your eyes bleed. Because this is going to be a bad product, especially with what we just talked about with the signings and all that. It's going to be a bad product to watch.
And if you want your team to make changes, not showing up for the games gives them a strong message.
No, but like in all honesty, like it makes it seem like we hate the Boston Bruins. We don't. Like I'm a ride or die with the Boston Bruins. I'm gonna.
I do. I do.
You're a
You
Canadian
guys,
fan. I'm sorry. But like that doesn't like just because the team's going to go through a lull period doesn't mean I'm going to switch my allegiances. Like I'm going to still
Never.
bleed black and gold. Like, you know what I mean? Like I
You
still
better.
obviously have other NHL teams that I am a fan of. Like, don't get me wrong, but the Bruins are my ride or die. Like, you
Yeah.
know, if it was them in the playoffs, 100%, they're going to the cup final. Woohoo, cup's back on. I'm delusional. But like, you know,
Right.
I'll be that guy along with the rest of the fans. But like Steve said, guys, like we're in for it this year. If by some miracle a meteor hits Florida and those teams no longer exist, then we'll probably make the playoffs.
Even
But
then,
outside of that,
I'm not even giving that hope.
But
Yeah,
I don't think
you might not.
with the signings that we made, it's going to make that much of an impact. Maybe it does. Who knows? I'm here's my delusional. Here's going to be my delusion. Minton, Patra, and Lysell, they alternate on the third line with Jeannot. Jeannot beats the shit out of people. Minton and Patra, they go in Lysell, they score goals. Everything starts to click. The team actually does well. The defense plays well, and a fucking miracle happens, and we make the playoffs. And then
your goalie doesn't let in beach balls all season.
Yeah,
I mean, Swayman's going to be a key too, right? He's got
Swayman is and guess what, guys? We're locked into him for what, 8 years, 7 more years now.
Yep.
Everyone.
You better.
I mean, I'm not putting too much stock into. I'm not putting too much stock into last year, dude. The whole team was awful. It wasn't just him; it was everybody. Everyone was garbage.
That's not the point I'm trying to drive. That's not the point I'm trying to drive. The whole team was bad. But what I'm saying is, again, historically, the Boston Bruins build out their roster: goalie, defense, offense. You need your number one guy to be your number one guy. And Swayman was not our number one guy.
No.
He needs to get back to being that guy.
He's got to bounce back.
He's got to bounce back, and a lot of this is on his
Hell, our number 2 guy was even playing like a number 5 guy. So I don't know what the fuck you want. Like, it's fucking bad. I don't know.
It was bad.
No, it's good. You know, it's good. It's gonna be fine. No, but in an ideal world, and then we can kind of end this. In an ideal world, like if everyone's like all fucking sunshine and rainbows, all the signings work out, and somehow the Bruins weed their way into a playoff spot. I don't want them to. I would much rather them have a lottery pick. I would much rather their draft pool get deeper. I'm sorry, not their draft pool, their prospect pool get deeper. I would like us to spend 2 years on a quick rebuild, retool, get back right into it, and then make another go at it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
that's ideal.
That's
picture,
it.
Right?
Yeah, that's my ideal picture. Take this year and possibly the year after that. It all depends. Anything can happen. But take either this year and the year after that. I think you could be right back in it. It's not like you're going to be out of it. Your defensive core is young. Most of your forward core is still in its prime, and it will be in its prime in 2 years. So it's not like you're going to really lose out on much. So,
but also, I think this year is super important for the young talent like Lysell
to build confidence,
and to get that experience playing at, hey, we might not be the best team, but guess what? These guys are developing. These guys are getting some more minutes. We're doing what we need, what we can, and with what we got. And I think if they go to the idea or the philosophy of, hey, let's bring these guys up. Let's make sure they're better. So that way, in 2 years, we're actually contenders now. I think that's what we need to focus on. And I don't think that's what Sweeney's vision is.
I'll say, and if you don't do that for them, trade them, because there's no point of you keeping them. With what Potter showed you the first year and what he showed you he could do down in Providence, and what Minton has been projected to, like, I'm sorry, if you're not going to give them an opportunity to show it, and if you're just going to keep burying them in favor of a bigger guys that aren't going to do anything, trade them, and go get the guys you want, because I'm sick and tired of wasting talent or potential talent without giving them an opportunity to show it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what you want out of me
or build that pick pool so you can build your prospects again.
Yep. Sure. Let's perpetually be in a rebuild.
Not perpetually.
Not perpetually, but
you do a good job, you won't be perpetually.
Exactly.
No, but I think you guys get the point I was trying to get at. Gentlemen, final thoughts. Get the fuck out of here.
They're the Bruins.
Go
I'm
Bees.
glad. I'm happy with what they did, but yeah, Don Sweeney's got to go. That's my final thought.
Final thoughts.
All right.
Overall grade for the draft, I'd give it a B.
Draft, I'm giving an A-.
I'm giving it a B. I think it was solid, but again, it's Don Sweeney, so I have to knock it down a letter grade. In free agency, it's a complete failure. And I think it's an F. Overall, I hate that deal with Chandler Jeannot. I hate it, and I think that Don Sweeney should have been fired and not extended. I'll be on that till the day I die. Get Sweeney
I think I'm gonna get. I'll give the draft an A-, and I'm gonna give the free agency a C-. And what's really dragging it down is that Tanner Jeannot deal. That's just bad. Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I'm not gonna call it a total failure because you did get some needs, but like Ehlers was right there, and admittedly, Ehlers did not want to come here. He said that he really wanted to go to Carolina. I don't blame him. I don't fault him, but you could have. I don't know. I hope you just at least tried to get something done. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for episode 40 of HiBruiNation. We're actually going to try and come back about every week. We might surprise you, we might not. So it's going to be every week to every 2 weeks. Again, welcome to Steve, aka the Chavo. Hit him up on Twitter at Steven the Chavo. I can't. What is it, Steve?
Steve the Chavo.
At Steve the Chavo. Give him a like, give him a follow, and welcome him to HiBruiNation. And next week we'll actually have Whitey, or the next time we record, we'll have Whitey, who also is one of our new co-hosts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let us know how you guys feel. So we'll always be happy to respond. And always remember, we love you. We love you all. And as much as we shout on the Bruins, go Bruins. Have a good night, everybody.
Go Bruins.
And thanks to Rick for filling in.
Fuck you, Rick. Thanks, Rick. Thanks.